Coming up, we have stories about family favoritism, disrespectful servers, distant spouses, Valentine's dilemmas, drowned terrariums, hair drama, awkward birthday parties, not mine, cake stories and spicy reward stories, and of course, celebrating my birthday. Am I the astronaut for treating my two sets of nephews differently because of their parents? I took the older son to his sport every week for more than a year when it was supposed to be only the first few weeks with the new baby. I once baked the birthday cake for his oldest third birthday, and since then it is expected that I do this every year. Intricate cakes, for example, looking like a Ninjago. He expects me to be able to babysit very last minute. I do really love my nephews and want them to have everything, so I go along with a lot of it. I never get a thank you, never get informed about special circumstances beforehand, like the kid hurt his leg and can't do anything too active, small stuff like that. Because I felt that my brother treated me like a babysitter that he didn't even pay and he wasn't even nice to, I started doing less and less with the kids. My sister and I have a strong relationship even though she lives a 2-hour drive away. I also love her sons and enjoy spending time with them. I don't know if it makes any difference, but my sister's youngest is also my godson. When I spend time with them, she informs me beforehand about those special circumstances, which makes my time with the kids so much easier. She thanked me at the end of the day and gave me the diapers I needed when the kids were smaller, normal stuff I would usually expect from everyone whose kids I would take care of. She lives a bit too far away to visit after work, so sometimes I send letters to her kids with pictures, short stories, etc. Also, ASMR Diet Coke cracking time over there. You heard it. My sister recently had to quarantine with both kids for 2 weeks, so I sent letters more frequently and we FaceTimed a lot as well when they weren't allowed to leave the house. Now my mother and my brother are hounding me that I clearly prefer my sister's sons over my brother's and that when I spent more time with them, in person or otherwise, I am obligated to do the same for the other two. This is not limited to the extra time I spent on my sister and her kids during quarantine, but it kind of started the discussion. In all honesty, I noticed that I do tend to shy away a bit more from spending time with my brother's kids. This is mostly about him, though, and how he tends to treat me. Also, I work full-time and only have a limited amount of time to spend on my nephews. For me, it makes sense to spend this time on whoever makes me happy and doesn't stress me out, which more often than not means my sister and her kids over my brother and his kids. Am I the astronaut for not spending equal amounts of time and effort on both sets of nephews? Yeah, Christian Museum Girl, I agree with you here. There's no obligation. There is no obligation. It is an NTA. I'd like to dig into it a little bit more though, because it's a bullshit request. It's a bullshit request from the son, right? Or brother, from OP's brother. So OP has a brother with kids and a sister with kids. The brother doesn't communicate well, or the brother's family doesn't communicate well, doesn't keep things in stock, is always last minute, just abuses the babysitting privileges, basically. Sister does not, which creates a much more positive experience. So if they want to bitch about you being compelled to spend more time and energy on your sister and her kids, they should feel compelled to figure out why that is. And instead of just bitching about it, find some kind of solution. It wasn't a, hey, why, right? It was a, you're shitty for doing it. I don't think it doesn't sound like there was any delve into trying to understand the motivators behind it. They just wanted to bitch about them not getting something that someone else got. Well, if they put the same amount of effort forth and care and consideration that she does for the limited amount of time that you watch her kids, you would be excited. It wouldn't be a negative experience. And that's what it comes down to. Because of how your brother treats you in this space, you have now related watching those kids as a negative experience, because it is a negative experience. Not because of the kids, because of him, because of their parents. The inverse here is the sister, and you relate this to a positive experience because it is a positive experience. Because there's no bullshit. There's no shitty last minute communication. There's no treating you like garbage. It is all positives. Of course, you are drawn to something that makes you happy rather than drawn to something that stresses you the F out. Of course. You have no obligation to treat anybody equally. None. And if anything here, I would stress this to your brother and say, do you know why? Do you know why I choose to spend more time and energy and focus here? Do you know why? And see what happens. Explain the root cause. See if that does anything. Truly me, Izzy, I understand the brother's kids didn't do anything wrong. However, I mean, unfortunately, you cannot separate that, right? You cannot separate them from their parents, and the whole experience becomes a negative. And I'm sure this isn't isolated to just OP here. I'm sure this has to do with a lot of things for those kids because of how their parents are. And that's just, you can't escape your parents, at least when you're a minor, when you're a dependent, right? You can't. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people in their life think this about their parents. There's nothing they can do about that. And yeah, I understand they didn't do anything wrong, but brother can't be bitching about OP wanting to do something that makes her happy versus wanting to stress herself out. That's it. It is unfortunate. It is definitely unfortunate, but there's no obligation. Am I the astronaut for treating my two sets of nephews differently because of their parents? The two sets of parents treat you differently, OP. Do they have an obligation to treat you exactly the same? And maybe that's the way to put it. If I have an obligation to do the same with the nephews, you have an obligation to treat me the same as our sister does. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. Am I the astronaut? I was straight disrespected at Rib Crib. Let me explain the situation. My girlfriend and I were hungry, starving. We did the classic back and forth dance. What do you want for dinner? No idea. What do you want? No idea. We finally settled on Rib Crib. Yeah, man, a nice barbecue burger, some wings, some fries, that's the stuff. The sound of some good food was music to our ears. So we went online, placed our order for curbside pickup, and headed to the restaurant. When we arrived, the parking lot was mostly empty. Good, I thought. Quick pickup, right? My girlfriend called the restaurant number for curbside. We waited 5 minutes. Nothing. Finally, someone picked up. Hello, they stated. Hi, I have a curbside pickup under so-and-so. We're outside in spot 1. She politely responded. The worker scoffed and exclaimed that they were still working on our food. It was already 5 minutes after the pickup time, and there were like 3 cars in the parking lot, but I digress. We politely said okay, and that we'd be in the curbside spot. Another 10 minutes passed. Nothing. So my girlfriend urged me, the cavalry, to go inside and grab our food. So that's what I did. I went inside and waited at the pickup booth. Nobody was there. There were a few employees texting and laughing in the aisle, and the kitchen seemed pretty tame. There was one table that had an elderly couple, but that was literally the only customers I saw inside. I decided to move to the front check-in area, thinking maybe they hadn't seen me. Still ignored. I could clearly see all of the employees loitering, doing nothing on their phones, etc. Now, I'm not the one to be a Karen, but my inner Karen was boiling up. Release the Karen! Excuse me? I spoke up loudly. A woman cocked her head and looked at me, hobbling over unhappily to the front host stand. What do you need? She asked. I scoffed. I have a curbside pickup. We called about 20 minutes ago, and I was told the food would be out shortly, and we've heard nothing since then. She looked at me unhappily. Name? She asked. I responded, and she walked back into the kitchen. Another 5 minutes pass, and she brings out our food in a bag while texting. She barely even holds her arm up to give me the food, not breaking from her text for a second. I was seeing red. Could you please hand it to me? I asked. She looked up angrily and raised her arm before dropping our food. Purposefully, I know it. She smiled and said, "Oh no, I'm sorry," and continued to just stare at me. I picked up our food and examined it. The boxes had taken minimal damage, and at this point, I was at the mercy of my hungry girlfriend if I didn't get the food back to her. The employee had already retreated back to the kitchen, so I just left, the hangry fires of my stomach roaring with rage. I explained the situation to my girlfriend, and she was livid. So we ate our food, which was a bit cold but still decent, thankfully, and then called the store, asking to speak to the manager. You'll never guess who answered. The same woman. My girlfriend tore into her, explaining how we wanted our money back. Silence. Then the phone call disconnects. Unbelievable. The next afternoon, I went in to speak directly with her or a different manager. As it turns out, she is absolutely not a manager. But the actual manager, a kind old gentleman, had stepped out for the night and left a shift lead in charge, who was also not her. but she decided to take the phone call, and the shift lead who was in charge let her. I told the manager how upset I was at my experience, and he was bewildered. I don't know what happened next, but I got my money back, and I know that I never saw her there again. I think I got her fired. Good riddance. Do you think I'm the crab ass for this? Too long don't read. I was straight disrespected at Rib Crib, but I got revenge. I think. Man. Yeah, this is an NTA. This is 100% an NTA. The question is, we've got to go back and make sure we're answering the direct question. Am I the astronaut? I was straight disrespected at Rib Crib. Well, I mean, it's in this situation. No, you were not the astronaut at all. Unfortunately, it seems like the benchmark or the baseline for customer service is going lower and lower and lower over time. And I know I sound like a grumpy old man, and maybe at 42, I'm just a little bit grumpier now. But it definitely seems like the standard is just looser and lower and lower and lower and lower. When we come across like a really stellar server, we make sure to let them know that like, hey, you were great, and don't let this shit world of customer service and what's happening all around you discourage you, because you were really great at what you do. And the experience that you get while doing this is going to take you so much further. It's going to be fantastic for people who really dive in and give a shit and are good and care. This is the part that I don't get. I don't get it. And we saw it when we worked at Outback Steakhouse, Candy Thunder. It is the mentality of I'm here, I'm at work. My income is dictated by the amount of effort I put in, right? The better job I do at waiting tables, the better service I give people, the better money I make. Most of the time. Doesn't always work like that. Sometimes you're not going to be able to make a difference, and that's fine. It happens. But there's so many people even then that would show up and be like, I just don't really want to be here. Do you want my tables? And I'm like, hell yeah, I want your tables. I'll run this whole damn restaurant. The more tables, the more money. I was there to work. I was there for a job. So people, it's not just restaurants, it's anything, but I think restaurants are one of the areas where if it's slow, like things get tough. There's an idle hands problem, and a lot of people start getting into this lackadaisical mentality, and then they just don't want to do anything, and then they start showing up to work, but they don't want to do anything. I'm like, why are you here? Why are you here? Because it's cush. But as a server, you only get like $2 an hour. Like, you need tips to survive. You have to be good. You have to try. I don't understand. I do not understand. Also, I don't understand how if this gal who did this shit, if this happened to her, I'm sure she would have thrown a shit fit. She would have absolutely not been okay with it. She would have been terrible and very upset about it, but is 100% okay doing that to other people. Also, it being completely dead in there and what, a dozen people walking by and just paying no attention, not okay. It's not okay. It's a lack of leadership. And I say that because typically when you have an organization like this, you have a restaurant, you have a lot of servers, that's a lot of young, malleable people. If you have a lazy leader or a lazy boss, everyone else is going to follow suit. If you have somebody who is an actual leader that can inspire them and make them better people, they are going to do a good job. This is a lack of leadership. And obviously the actual manager had to step out and learned his lesson there. Learned his lesson trying to let somebody else take charge because it just ran it into the ground. And now he's probably going to answer to corporate. I don't know. Is that a chain or is it a franchise? I'm not sure. But it's NTA. And unfortunately, this kind of crap happens more and more often. And I don't know why. This one is actually from the marriage subreddit and is titled, "My wife is cold and distant towards me since I helped an ex during a bad time. Oof. I, male 35, was in a long-term relationship with a woman, female 33, between the ages I was 20 to 30. Then she left for a job in another state. Later, she told me LDR didn't work, long-distance relationship, so we broke up and I discovered that she was engaged. I met my wife a year later, and honestly, I don't think I ever knew what love was before I met her. Everything is different with her, and love is so easy and not an uphill battle all the time like I realized my former relationship was. I'm trying not to bash my ex or relationship. We grew up together and we learned a lot, but sometimes you hate something and that turns out to be a good thing. And this for me was the ending of my relationship. I was very sad and devastated, but looking back, I'm happy it happened, or I wouldn't have known what true love or happiness is. At the same time, I met my ex-wife. My ex moved back and she said that she regretted ending things and that we loved each other. I wasn't in love with her anymore and I turned her down. She's still a good friend and I like her as a friend. She is, however, my sister's best friend. This is gonna get complicated. My wife knows her and she's never been threatened by her because we have always had a solid relationship. Well, that's good. My ex's mom unfortunately passed away suddenly and she has been inconsolable and broken since. I cannot even imagine the pain. My sister is devastated too and she has been by her side. I have been supportive and it felt very appropriate. My sister encouraged me to be there and support our friend. My wife didn't mind in the beginning, but I felt that she started being uncomfortable, that I went on walks and hikes with my ex. But it was doing her good to keep her mind off of things, and I found my wife's coldness uncalled for. I never experienced her as cold-hearted or callous, but here we are. She just didn't like the mention of my ex, so I didn't mention her either. Then a week after New Year's, my sister planned a week's vacation for her and her husband, my ex, me, and another couple that my sister and ex are friends with. Ooh, but not your wife? Eek. My wife this time was very upset and said that she didn't want me to go. She asked why she wasn't invited then if it was just an innocent hangout. My sister said that this was ridiculous because we've been friends since high school, but my wife said that my sister never really liked her. I thought she was being unfair and ridiculous. However, she said that she didn't want me to be on that trip. After the trip, my wife has been different. He still went. He still went on the trip. I can't imagine why she's been different, dude. Also, we're going to go ahead and do this right now. Jabroni. She isn't rude or upset or sad, but she just doesn't engage with me. Oh, shite. She's to indifference. She doesn't start conversations. When I try to confront her, she doesn't engage in arguments. I don't know what to do. She doesn't even think that something has changed. Oh, yes, she does. She's indifferent. It's too late. When I am going out, she doesn't even care. If I go on a hike with my ex, she doesn't get bothered. Also, when my sister had her birthday, my wife told me that morning that she was feeling sick and didn't want to risk infecting the others, and she just sent a text to my sister and a present with me. Now, onto what ended up being the last straw. My ex is having a birthday party on Friday. Both me and my wife are invited. My wife just said, sorry, I can't do it. I'm already booked for a work friend's birthday. I asked her why I wasn't invited, and she said that I was, but that she was taking her nephew, so I didn't need to go with her, so I could go to my party instead. This is very out of character for my wife, who would have tried to make other solutions like dropping by one party first and then the other, but she just didn't care. I asked her if she could come with me instead, since her work colleague isn't a close friend, but she just dismissed me and laughed mirthfully, calling me ridiculous. Never heard the word mirthfully, but I'm hanging on to it. She's done. Yeah, she's done. She's indifferent. She doesn't even... Candy Thunder, what are the stages? Frustration, resentment, indifference. It's too far gone, brozo. She doesn't even resent you anymore. She just doesn't care. At this point, I would not be surprised at all, because she's at this point, she's done. It is a matter of time. She may be talking to an attorney already. The fact that you went ahead and went on this trip speaks volumes. Volumes. Okay, let's reflect here for a second. The instant, I understand why you were doing what you're doing, but the instant that your partner throws a flag and says, I am not comfortable with this, you take that seriously. And you at least try to find a solution. You do not ignore it and go ahead and proceed anyway. Your wife was comfortable. She didn't have a problem with it before. She said you didn't have a problem with it before because you guys have a solid relationship. Well, you spent more and more and more time with your ex, who professed her love to you. And at some point, there's attrition, right? At some point, the shields that your wife has get worn down. You keep choosing to spend time with this woman who professed her love to you. And yes, she's going through a tough time, but also she's probably not upset to be also able to spend time with you. And now there's a freaking couples trip that your sister arranged, and you and your ex are the couple. Your wife was excluded. She threw a flag. She said, don't do it. You did it anyway. It's done. It's over. I know there isn't, this isn't an AITA story. You're not asking if you're the astronaut for this, but you are. You definitely are. 1,500 to go on our Tater and Love goal here as well. She's done. She's done. It's at least a 2 here. You're at least a 2 because you definitely shouldn't have done this. But the fact that your partner brought up this discomfort and you just completely ignored it, to me, puts you at a 1. What the hell? You threw your relationship away. And now to get back and be like, oh no, she's being so cold. I don't understand. I don't understand why she's being so different and cold. Because she told you not to go on this couples trip with your ex and you did it anyway, you jabroni. You're smarter than this. This is denial. He's in denial. She's indifferent. She is done. And it's your fault. Good job. Oh, yeah. Sister is definitely there as well. I mean, setting up this trip and getting pissed off at the wife about it. She knew what was going on here too. Sister is right there too. I don't think the wife sucks here. Everybody who went on the trip. So sister, OP, and the ex. Yes. Completely taking advantage of the situation here. Completely manipulating. This was from the marriage AITA, or the marriage subreddit as well. And the title was, "My wife is cold and distant towards me since I helped an ex during a bad time." Everyone sucks here when it comes to the gourmet cupcakes. So a little backstory. My aunt works for the housing authority in my hometown, and the main housing unit has a venue that can be used by residents and employees. Dates are first come, first serve. We usually celebrate the holidays or birthdays the weekend after the actual event, so we have never lost a date. The venue does have a kitchen, and you can use the kitchen in the venue with rules. Clean up after yourself, and you can only use it the day of the event. The event needs to end at 9 p.m. with cleanup after. Those rules make it easier for 2 events after the other, and you're not interfering in each other's events. So we were celebrating my grandmother's 60th birthday on a Saturday with a potluck and all the over-the-hill decorations. My cousin even had a walker made from balloons. Well, when using the refrigerator, one of my relatives found golden black cupcakes in the fridge. It fit the theme colors. They were pretty elaborately decorated and filled with the sweet cream filling. Well, they put them out as well as the deviled eggs, potato salad, and pasta salad. The party was a success. My aunt called my mom to let us know the cupcakes were not from my family members, but that they belonged to the person who booked the venue for the Sunday. She had put them in the fridge for Sunday after she had unlocked the venue on Saturday. So we ate about $400 worth of gourmet cupcakes that weren't ours. My aunt told the tenant that it was their fault and why the contract says they can only use the venue the day of. The tenant understood, and my aunt did offer to pay them back, but the damage was done. So that is why the family where everyone sucks here. What do you think, Dusty? How many cupcakes was $400 worth? Like how many? Ooh, I gotta know how many cupcakes this is. 60. Oh, 60. Those are some expensive cupcakes. I mean, that's a lot of them too. I mean, it was an honest mistake. There wasn't any kind of malice behind any of this. Nobody was doing it on purpose. The person who left them there, the tenant that left them there, knew they weren't supposed to use it ahead of time, could have put a note or something on it and been like, for this event this day, right? And that would have solved all the problems here. And I understand, even though your aunt said that was willing to pay it back, there's no way that they could get the cupcakes in time for their party. So that sucks. It is their fault. It is 100% their fault for putting them in there before they were supposed to put them in there when they knew they weren't supposed to, without any kind of label or sign or anything like that. If there was a sign or a note on these, nobody would have touched them. And I guess maybe that's the moral of the story. If you're going to break protocol, make sure there are some clear signs to other people who are following protocol so that they know that you've broken protocol. It happened. It was just a the stars aligned, like it fit your theme for your party. It's unfortunate. That's it. It is unfortunate. I don't think anyone sucks here. NSH. No one sucks here. It's just unfortunate. Shit happens. And this is one of those shitty things. They could have prevented it by putting a sign on it, but it doesn't sound like they were shitty about it. They were understanding. So at least there's that. $400 in cupcakes. I mean, if I had $400 worth of cupcakes disappear, I'd probably be pretty pissed at myself because it would have been my fault. And that's it. But at least they weren't mad. Nobody was shitty about it. And I think that leads to an NSH instead of an ESH. No one sucks here. It sucks. Shitty situation. Yeah, if it's $400 worth of cupcakes, you think you'd be a little more careful and more likely to put some kind of sign on stuff there, right? Am I the astronaut for telling my girlfriend I didn't think she was the type of girl who would want me to buy her stuff for Valentine's? That's just what every girl wants to hear.
I just didn't think you were the type of girl who wanted stuff on Valentine's Day, you know? You don't want stuff.
We've already handled your stuff. My 29 male girlfriend, 25 female, and I have been together since March of last year, so almost a year. She's not super materialistic and not really into going to fancy restaurants or spending money on designer clothes and such. I often cook dinner for her and go out of my way to make her feel special and loved. However, the other day she brought up Valentine's Day and asked me if I have anything planned. I've never been one to celebrate Valentine's Day. I don't think I need to spend money just to prove I love my girlfriend. I told her this and I thought she would agree with me, but she said that she would like it if I got her a gift and if we went out to a nice restaurant. I'm working on paying off student loans, and she knows I don't have very much money to spend on gifts and fancy dinners. She is an artistic, sort of quirky girl, and honestly, I did not think she was the type who would want me to shell out the big bucks and take her to some overpriced, crowded steakhouse for a manufactured holiday. It really made me view her differently. I told her, I'm surprised. I really didn't think you were that kind of girl. She went quiet after I said that, and then later accused me of judging her for wanting to celebrate Valentine's. We haven't brought it up again, but I feel that she is still a bit upset about it. Am I the astronaut? Ellen, good point. Aren't most holidays manufactured? Good point. I think there was an assumption made on his part, and you know what to say about assumptions, right? Assholes make them. Is that what they say? I'm just kidding. Never mind. Trying to talk to the kids in the back of the class who aren't paying attention the whole class. That's what's going on here. They have no idea what's going on the entire stream. No idea. Every time I say something to them, like, what? What's that? I was kidding. It was a joke. It was never mind. It was a joke. I know the assuming makes an ass out of you and me thing. I was trying to twist it. He made an assumption here, and because he made an assumption, that's where things went sideways here. If they had openly communicated about this ahead of time, when did they have this conversation? It was last minute, so he doesn't think he has time to plan, and maybe that's where he got stressed here, and maybe that's why he said what he said. It's because he's stressed and he can't pull it off the way that he feels like he needs to pull it off. Maybe there's some guilt involved there as well. But this whole viewing her differently because she wants to celebrate Valentine's, I don't think that's fair. I don't feel like that is a fair ding on her character, because once a year she wants to get gussied up and actually do something that's more coupley, right? Something out of the norm. And maybe that's the difference here, is that maybe it's not so much that she wants to get out and do the bougie dinner thing, but maybe she wants to do something different. Maybe she wants to change things up just this one day. Maybe that's it. Maybe she would appreciate that. But it's the assumption and the lack of communication here that are troublesome. But it's a 29 male OP. Girlfriend is 25. They're still young. They've been together almost a year, together since March of last year. So almost a year. So they have not had a Valentine's together yet. This is the first time they're running into this. So the first time you run into anything as a couple, it's going to require communication ahead of time, or you're going to stumble through it and then you'll learn for the next time. Treat this as a learning experience and a learning opportunity, OP. This is not a ding on your partner's character here. I think truly judging her because she wants to get dolled up and go out to dinner, I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it makes her materialistic. I think it's every once in a blue moon, it is nice to do something different. We might get dressed up one day out of the year, Candy Thunder, and it may be for like chamber banquet or something. And maybe, yes, I was still working because I was the MC that night, but still we got dolled up and we got to do something fun. Like, it's the only time I've worn a suit, right? Cupcake McGee says, okay, but what did OP do for Christmas? Good question. But probably had more time to prepare for Christmas, and that may be where the panic is coming from here. Maybe the panic is leading to guilt, and that is leading to him lashing out the way that he is here. I don't feel like it's fair to judge her for wanting to do that, but also I don't feel like it's fair to have this last minute conversation. I feel like OP in your position here, the safe route would be to say, I screwed up. I'm sorry. We should have communicated about this way ahead of time because I didn't plan. And I feel like I need to plan. So we'll do something. It's going to be a miniature version this year. Next year, I promise we will do something much bigger because now I know it's a big deal. Owning that you screwed something up goes a long, long, long way, especially with your partner. Owning it and saying, I will fix this and I will make sure it does not happen again goes much further than you will ever know. Yeah, make a romantic dinner at home. Make it a big deal. Make it something special. And he said he cooks at home for her a lot. It was posted 2 days ago. You got to make it special somehow, though, and that's where it's kind of dangerous because he does cook at home for her a lot. So you got to make it special while doing something that's the same. So there's got to be some kind of differentiator here. I don't feel like it's fair to judge her for that, but I understand that he's kind of freaking out because it's a last minute thing. But now use this as a learning experience. Don't make the same mistake again. I do think you're an asshole for this. How big of an asshole do we think he is? So the question is, am I the astronaut for telling my girlfriend I didn't think she was the type of girl to want me to buy her stuff for Valentine's? That's not just making the assumption. Whenever she told him what she told him and that she did want to do something, his response is the direct question here. Is he the asshole for his response here? It's at least, for sure, I could have done it differently. For sure, I should have done it differently. In my opinion, I think this is a definitely should not have done this. You should not have said, I didn't think you were the kind of girl to want me to buy you stuff on Valentine's Day. What happened when he did that is that he placed 100% of the blame for his up on her. He's like, oh, you surprised me by being something different than I thought you were. That is his way of repelling all ownership and accountability here for this problem. He repelled it back to her, returned to sender, and said, oh, it's because I'm surprised that you are this way. It might even be, I don't think it's evil because I don't think he realizes what he's doing here. But that is him cowardly refusing to accept accountability here. When if you own up to it, communicate about it, and don't screw it up again, that would be the best possible outcome. And you'll still do something. You can still do something. Am I the astronaut for canceling our anniversary trip because my husband drowned my terrarium? Was it on purpose? I, 29 female, traveled across the country to visit a company regarding an incredible job offer. I spent 2 days touring the company to decide if it would be the right fit for me after years of self-employment. After meeting with the company, I visited my sister, 32 female, and her family a few towns over. We barely got to see each other because of work and distance, so it was wonderful to spend a few days with her, the family, and her new baby. I was gone for a total of 8 days. When I returned home, I was excited to spend time with my husband, 33 male, and tell him about the trip, my visit with my sister, my impression of the city, etc. We were meant to be celebrating our anniversary and decided to put off the discussion about whether or not I should accept the job offer until after our anniversary getaway. I had arranged for us to go on a luxury train ride because he's a big train enthusiast, and we were meant to leave for the trip 3 days after I got home. This is when the problem started. I have a very large closed bioactive terrarium, which I made with my mother 15 years ago. It's one of my favorite things that I have of her before she passed. This terrarium is my pride and joy and has come with me everywhere since we planted it. It was always super healthy and beautiful, and I've only ever had to open it 4 times to do a little maintenance and watering. My husband knows all of this, which is why I don't understand why he decided to tamper with it in my absence. I didn't notice the night I got home because I was exhausted, but the next morning I went to check on the terrarium to find it in a terrible state. The roots were rotting and the plants dying and molding. He told me that the day I left, he poured a few cups of water into the vessel and sealed it again. I was so mad I cried, and it turned into a huge argument because it's just a plant, and All you do is look at it anyway. He called me ungrateful and overdramatic, and I should appreciate that he intended to help me and that he didn't ask because he didn't want to bother me on my trip. I ended up canceling our anniversary plans, partly because I was so upset that I didn't want to go, and partly because I wanted to try and salvage the plants, and that would require time. He hit the roof when I told him, and is now sleeping in a separate room and refusing to speak to me because, according to him, I'm being petty and trying to destroy our marriage. Am I being oversensitive about my plants? My friends are pretty evenly split and have pointed out that he was just trying to be thoughtful, however misguided it was. Too long don't read. Am I the astronaut for canceling our anniversary trip, which my husband was excited for because he accidentally destroyed the terrarium I made with my late mother? I understand her reaction, but also he was just trying to help. I think who in chat thinks he was actually trying to help? Candy Thunder seems to think that he was trying to do this on purpose and do it maliciously. Okay. So he was not trying to help. Okay, if he was not trying to help and if he did this maliciously, then it's a completely different deal. If he was honestly trying to help and he just screwed it up because sometimes we do that, then it's a different situation. If he did this trying to destroy it, if it was malicious intent and he was trying to destroy this thing that has all kinds of sentimental value to her, she is absolutely not the astronaut. And why would he do it? What's the motive? What's the motive for trying to destroy something that has sentimental value for her that's been around for 15 years? It's just an eyesore. He doesn't want to deal with it. What motive would he have for trying to destroy it? They were going on the trip anyway, but okay. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense that none of this makes sense. So Miles is saying that he did this acting out because he didn't get to go on the first trip. She traveled across the country to visit a company regarding an incredible job offer, spent 2 days touring the company to decide blah, 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 and then visited her sister and her family a few towns over. So the theory here is that he sabotaged this because he wanted to go on that first trip. Maybe, and that would fall right in line with him not getting to go the first time. The job opportunity, maybe he's just acting out because he doesn't want to go, so he's just destroying random shit. That's a terrible way to speak your mind. If he's got an opinion on this that he needs to share, you could do that in other ways rather than destroying something that is a sentimental thing left from your partner's parent who is now passed. Something that he knows is hugely sentimental. Either way, acting out because he's threatened or because he doesn't want to go or because he's mad because she didn't take him on the first trip. If this is acting out, it is a terrible, malicious, idiotic thing to do. Grow up and learn to use your words and talk about your feelings instead of ruining something on purpose, because you ruined more than this terrarium. You ruined more than a terrarium. You ruined your marriage. I mean, it got an anniversary trip canceled. If they get to the bottom of this and she figures out that he did do it on purpose because he's acting out about something, you think that they can turn this around? And now he tells her that her feelings aren't valid. I'm innocent, I'm not innocent. I have rose tinted glasses when it comes to people's motivations. So I was like, well, maybe the dude was really, I also don't know jack shit about terrariums, obviously. Like maybe he really was trying to help and he was trying to do something sweet and he f***ed it up. Obviously he screwed it up, but now you've got two people overreacting. If he really was trying to help, and she busted his balls for that, but he also said that her feelings weren't valued. So you got an everyone sucks here. But if that is not the case, and he did this on purpose to try to sabotage it because he's acting out about some bullshit, then it is very one-sided. Very one-sided. And that would put him here in ASCON 1 territory. And it would put OP squarely into NTA land. That sucks. I don't give a shit what it is. I don't care if it's something that you don't like looking at or you don't want to have to mess with or have in your house or what. I don't care. You knew that it had sentimental value to your wife because of her mother who is now passed. Just talk. Like, why would you? You're gonna ruin our lives by taking this job somewhere else. I'm gonna ruin something too. Boosh. All right, this one is titled, Am I the Astronaut for choosing my hair over my friend? I, 26 female, decided not to attend my friend's, 25 female, let's call her Maria, wedding that will be happening later this year. A little bit of backstory about me. I grew up with strict parents, especially my mother. I was not allowed to wear inappropriate outfits, ergo shorts, skirts, anything revealing, have a boyfriend, no wearing of makeup, and no long hair. I was actually nicknamed Dora at school because of my bangs and bob haircut. I always envied the other girls who could dress up, wear makeup, style their hair, and feel pretty. So as soon as I was independent, I did the things I was not allowed to do before. I bought clothes that made me feel pretty, experimented with skincare and makeup, and grew my hair out. But anyway, right now my hair is really long, almost reaching my butt, and I constantly take good care of it so it's quite soft and shiny. I take vitamins, adjust my diet, and buy a lot of product to take care of it. It makes me feel good about myself, and I get to style my hair with different braids like I always wanted. Maria was a friend I met during college, and we've gotten closer over the years. She always tells me she loves my hair, and we exchange hair care and skincare tips. We also sometimes go to salons together and get pampered. She's a very close friend of mine, so when she asked me to come to her wedding as a bridesmaid, I instantly said yes. However, a few days ago, she pulled me aside and asked me if I could cut my hair for her wedding. She said that she didn't want my hair to steal people's attention away from her during the wedding. Why would my hair steal any attention away from her? This confuses me because she's the bride. I told her that, and she pointed out that I love to style my hair with unique braids, and it can catch attention because people will ask how I did it or how I took care of my hair. I did feel guilty hearing this because at the time I realized that I do talk about my hair and hair tips a lot because I felt like I was compensating for the years when I couldn't. Anyway, I apologized to her about the constant hair talk and I promised not to do any of that at her wedding, but I still didn't want to cut my hair. I suggested that I could put it into a simple bun instead. That way it won't steal anyone's attention. I still don't get how it could. She said no, she wants me to cut it. She gave me an ultimatum that I could either cut my hair or choose not to attend her wedding. Oh, not just be in it now, not go. I chose not to attend the wedding. Most of our friends call me the asshole for choosing my hair over my friend, saying that hair will just grow back, but my friendship with Maria never will. But I really tried to compromise. I thought a bun would suffice. I didn't want to cut my hair, and Maria demanding that I do it just reminds me of the days when I was with my parents and my mom cutting my hair while I cried. But am I the astronaut for choosing hair over a friend? Am I making a big deal out of nothing? No. You are not the astronaut for choosing your hair over a friend, but you didn't. You chose your hair over someone who pretended to be your friend and ultimately decided not to. This was not a friend. This was an easy choice. Someone who demands that you change something about yourself is not a friend. Pretty easy to spot. Someone who feels so threatened by you, they force you to change yourself just to be in, not just in, to be at. She's absolutely not a friend, and that sucks. I'm sure that's gut-wrenching, that's heartbreaking because you've grown closer over the years and you were excited to go to this wedding, but then anything that might steal a little bit of glimmer of the spotlight, right? She couldn't have it. Couldn't handle it at all. This speaks to her insecurities, OP, and that sucks. It absolutely sucks. You did try to compromise. It's crazy to me that she wasn't just saying you can choose not to be in the wedding. No, she said at. Like, you cannot, if you aren't going to do this, you just can't even be there. You can't come to my wedding, period. Like, wow, that's drastic. That is drastic. Maria, yeah, absolutely. Maria goes to here, all the way to Ascon 1 for trying to force her friend to do this and giving her the ultimatum and not even letting her attend the wedding because she didn't want to cut her freaking hair. I'm sure that hair would have been, the amount of time that hair has been growing has probably been growing longer than they've been friends. And the update. Okay, here we go. Update. Thank you to everyone who commented on the last post. It made me feel validated with my decision and made me feel less horrible. I also appreciated the kind words and advice given. Now on to the update. I initially planned to give it 2 to 3 days before I contact Maria again, and I was hoping for a few days of silence would help her cool off and for me to build up the courage to speak to her again. But I got too anxious, so I ended up pushing it further until I finally decided to call her yesterday. She didn't pick up my calls at first, so I had assumed that she was either busy or she didn't want to talk to me anymore. I made a few more calls because I really wanted to mend our friendship, but then I started to realize that I may come off as annoying and unable to take a hint, so I dropped it. A few hours later, I finally got a text from Maria asking me if I'm free to talk. I got nervous. Confrontations of any kind make me feel anxious, but I said yes. Our conversation went as follows. I discovered that the wedding was canceled and that Maria decided to end the engagement. She also told me that she appreciates me as a friend, but no longer wants to talk with me and our friend group again. What the what? I asked her why, and she admitted that the reason she pushed for a wedding was because she caught her now ex-fiance cheating last December. Oh, well, that, pushing for a wedding, that'll solve it. That'll solve everything. So they pushed for marriage as that was his way of showing her that she's the only one. Maria loves him and she agreed to this condition, but since then she has become extremely insecure and paranoid over his interactions with other women. She never told us though because Maria felt that talking about it was like her acknowledging the problem. She believes that talking about negativity attracts more negativity, so she often avoids it. That's the reason why she loved the guy, because he was a positive and happy-go-lucky type of person. Her ex-fiance was also the type of guy who loved to compliment others. Maria used to find this endearing, but because of the cheating, it made her paranoid. As such, she admitted that her paranoia led her to ask for me to get a haircut because her ex-fiance once complimented it. Wow. She has also done something similar to our other friends. She ended up losing friendships just like she did with me, and this has made her reflect. But she was also hell-bent on her decision to get married, and her wake-up call was catching him cheating on her again with one of our friends this time. This was how she realized that it won't work anymore. The wedding was canceled and she called to apologize to me, thanking me for being her friend, but after everything, she said she no longer wanted to be in contact with any of us. I still don't understand that part. She said that every time she sees us, she can't help but be reminded of him. In her words, seeing your hair reminds me of how he said he liked it and it makes me want to hate you, and would rather cut our friendship before she starts to hate us. Before? Think she's there. I am hurt by her decision since a part of me feels that it's unfair for me to lose our friendship because of someone else's actions, but after some reflection, I also realize that friendships are two-way and I cannot force one with her if she doesn't want it. So in the end, I do get to keep my hair, but not my friendship with Maria. It's sad, but at the very least, we had somewhat of a closure. So that's all. Thank you so much for everyone who validated and gave me advice in the last post. I wish this update was a happier one, but I guess it was better than what I expected. I never knew that losing friendship would hurt just as much as losing a boyfriend, so it'll take a good while for me to get over it. I imagine it's worse. I imagine losing a close good friend. I imagine a close good friend is stings worse than losing a boyfriend or girlfriend because I feel like you get closer. And there's probably more time involved there. I still don't understand how she's cutting off all of her friend group because it hurts too much to, like every time she talks to them or looks at them, she's going to be reminded of her now ex who screwed her over. Well, guess what, lady? You're going to be able to apply that strategy or that filter to everything in life. You can say this reminds me of this bad thing to anything, freaking piece of confetti, like wood, air, light. You can tie bad things to anything if you're really trying to, and it sounds like she's really trying to right now. And that's no way to live. There's going to be an anniversary for a bad thing every effing day. There's going to be this reminds me of this bad thing everywhere she looks. People who seek pain will always find it. Always. This is her looking for pain. Yes, she needs therapy. Absolutely needs therapy to get through this. She doesn't need to be cutting out her friend group that actually cares for her. Yeah, the one friend who fooled around on her fiance or fooled around with her fiance. Yes, obviously. But her entire friend group, just guilty by association. And OP, because you have long hair, that her idiot of an ex complimented once, she can never look at you again. Probably going to have to develop some more emotional toughness. And yeah, that's going to be something that requires some therapy. It also is going to be something that requires the support of a friend group. And isolating yourself and siloing yourself is not going to make you happier. If anything, it's going to push you further into darkness, I would think. It does not make sense. Title of this story is, Am I the Astronaut for kicking my wife out after she punched my mom in the face? What? My situation went from bad to worse in a matter of a week and I don't know where else to turn. I need to know if I was wrong. Possibly a validation thing because life is effing dumb right now. My wife and I have been together for 8 years and she just gave birth to our first and last baby 2 months ago. I'm not sure WTF is wrong with my mom or why the switch happened, but after my wife got pregnant, my mom started being very clingy to me and started avoiding my wife at all costs. Told everyone she wasn't excited about the pregnancy, etc. I threatened to go no contact with her when my wife was about 7 months along, and after that she snapped out of it for the most part and stopped being so ignorant. The comments 100% stopped, at least, though she still was clinging to me. Now, a week ago, my mom, my sister's husband, and my sister's daughter, 12, came over for dinner. I prepared the meal. Before my wife could eat anything, our daughter got fussy, so my wife excused herself to go feed the baby and get her down to sleep. I thought I prepared enough, but apparently not because my niece was still starving. She's 5'5" and 190 pounds. I haven't seen her in a year and she was not that size then, so I didn't exactly portion in an extra 3 helpings for a child, so it's on me. I apologized and told her that I hadn't made any more and offered her crackers as I was putting my wife's portion in the fridge. After that, I just went outside with my sister's husband to smoke a cigarette and shoot the breeze. Didn't think anything of it. But then I hear yelling from inside. When I walked in, my wife and my mom were screaming at each other. Apparently, my mom, who saw me put my wife's food away, gave my niece my wife's portion of food. As I was walking inside, I heard my mom say, "Looks like you can afford to skip a meal," and slapped my wife's stomach. Right as soon as I get ready to step in, literally fast walking toward them, yelling, "Enough!" My wife winds back and punches my mother square in the face and drops her. The whole house went silent outside of my mom crying and holding her face. I told everyone to get the out. Immediately, everyone leaves and my wife just turns toward the counter and leans with her hands on the counter and face down, eyes closed. I look at my wife and say, "You two, leave now." She says, "Really?" She's crying at this point. I say a clipped, "Yep." She packs up her and the baby and they leave. I texted her that night and said I just need space. I need to decompress and come to terms with what just happened. She doesn't respond. The next 5 days, I'm texting and calling and I get nothing. She shows up here today, so 8 days later, and hands me divorce paperwork and my baby and says, "Here, you have a bit to hang out with her while I go pack. When I'm done breastfeeding, we can work out a visitation schedule that is either at your place or my mother's until she will take a..." I told her that's not what I want. I don't want to separate. I just needed time to process her punching my mother in the face. She said, "You needing time to process gave me time to process the fact that I refused to be in this situation any longer." I defended myself. I initially felt bad and remorseful, but you making me leave when I needed you made me see more clearly. I'm done. I'm sorry for what I did, but there's no fixing this. She refused to speak to me at all the rest of the time that she was here. My house feels so empty and I don't know what to do. Am I the astronaut for making her leave after she punched my mom? I just needed some effing space. Edited to add, for the record, I am team wife. My mom deserved it wholeheartedly, and I've blocked her completely from my life. I literally just needed time to process what happened. My wife is a lot of things. Violent is not one of them. So this came completely out of left field and would not have happened without her being provoked. After it all happened, my mom sent me a text saying, "See, I told you she was crazy. That fat bitch doesn't belong in our life." I'm willing to bet she purposely tried setting my wife off. So no, I'm not on my wife's side 100%. I truly just needed to process what happened, and my wife took it as me giving up on her, not defending her and throwing her and our baby out, which did essentially happen because I knew she had to take the baby with her when I kicked her out. Edited to add to the reason why. My dad was physical with me and my siblings growing up. Mom was put in the hospital multiple times. It took years for police to enforce restraining orders, and he finally died in 2013. Violence scares the effing shit out of me. I clam up and get anxious around violence of any kind now. My wife knows this, and she too grew up with a violent stepdad, and she gets just as anxious and panicky around violence. Her punching my mom in the face triggered an anxious response, and I needed her gone at that moment. I needed it far away from me. I don't know why I didn't just leave. I could have, but in that moment, I just let my emotions and fear run the whole circus and told everyone to get out, her included. My mom slapped her first. I guess for some reason I was seeing my wife's punch as being worse than the slap. It wasn't a hard slap, but my wife did kind of wince, looking back at it now. She was fine, but my mom was bleeding, split her eyebrow open, in good shape. I don't know. Thanks for the responses. I'm the asshole. I'm going to try to go kiss ass now. Ladies and gentlemen, to help give us some feedback on the story, the one, the only, the Candy Thunder.
peppered beef jerky.
The real tater in love here. You have peppered beef jerky in your mouth?
No, I did before I got here. His whole I need to kiss ass and do all this stuff is completely negated by the fact that he said he's possibly on Reddit for validation for doing what he did. He came to get validated for kicking his wife and his 2-month-old baby out of his house. How do you, and then to say like, oh yeah, I did, I realized I messed up, blah, blah, blah. But you came originally for possibly validating what you did to your wife. And I assume that's your wife's house too, and your baby's house too. And you knew if you kicked your wife out, you were kicking your baby out. You abandoned them.
He did.
When she's in the middle of postpartum. The worst part of postpartum, in my 2 times opinion, is that 2-month mark, because people come around less. You're more like the baby starting to be awake more, like sleep gets all messed up again. That's 2-month mark is a hard freaking part. And your mom set you up and you just took the bait. Like she set this whole thing up. She knew exactly what she was doing and you just walked right into it and gave her what she wanted. And then you didn't choose your wife. Like I can't even, I mean, I would hand him divorce papers too. There's no question about it.
He didn't choose his mother. He chose himself. Like it wasn't a choice. He sent everybody away. But yes, mom absolutely played this.
Yes.
Knowing what trauma he has, knowing that she was going to take advantage of it, knowing exactly what she was doing. And in that moment when your wife needed you to step up and choose her more than any other time before, you chose yourself.
He could have walked away though. Like you don't kick your wife and your baby out of your home when you can very easily walk outside, take a drive, go get your space that you need. You do not abandon your wife and baby.
He wasn't even directly affected in this. He was a bystander, right? Like she was the one that got into this altercation and got baited into this by mom.
She was told that she was fat, that she didn't need to eat, and then she was slapped. So yeah, of course she's going to respond in that situation. And instead of like seeing that could have happened, you didn't take even a breath. You just kicked her out and was like, I can't look at you. I can't see this. I mean, you did the one thing that you promised not to do when you married your wife. And that I don't think you can get that back. I don't think you can kiss ass and make up for what you've done.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. And Tony said the mom's response saying that, I mean, she just basically told you she baited you and you fell for it. You can't slap people and tell them they're disgusting and not expect them to respond. That's just crazy.
And they both came from upbringings where they had violent people around. So it's not just a him thing. I mean, it's something that they have in common. And you know, whether you have PTSD from it or not, you don't repel your family. Like if anything, at this point, he needed to step up and protect them, and did the opposite, sent everyone away to protect himself, not physically, mentally, emotionally. But his wife had just been through something, a physical altercation, and he sent her away. And like the most heated time, like that's not the time. It's time to circle the wagons. It's time to make sure that she knows that she's safe. This is her space too. And instead, just sent her away. You,
in that moment, could have went up to your wife, hugged her, consoled her, told her how much you loved her, and turned around. Like the situations where you were in were abused and you knew violence. Like you could have saved your wife in that moment because you saw her get slapped. But instead, you just treated her like dirt. Like you treated her like she was nothing. Like only your mental health mattered, not the woman who just gave birth. I mean, what if she had a C-section? Like we don't know that, but you don't slap a woman who just gave birth in the stomach. Come on.
So where would you put OP at here, Candy Thunder? I'll let you do the honors. There it goes. Yeah. We did talk about this too.
No question.
When we have Ask On Ones, I think we're gonna start doing something like this.
Yeah.
We're gonna get this etched, like an Ask On One etched on here, and this will be the Ask On One award. There we go. We'll call it the Assy Award. Something like that.
The Assy.
The Assy. It's definitely not cool.
No.
Am I the astronaut for wanting to postpone the wedding with my fiance because she tested me with a fake miscarriage? Trigger warning, miscarriage. I, 26 male, have been dating my fiance Vivian, 28 female, for 5 years, and we found out she was pregnant shortly after I proposed. We were both ecstatic about it, even though it wasn't planned. Vivian's parents were a bit upset that I got their daughter pregnant without being married to her, but having a wedding during her pregnancy seemed to calm them. They're religious, so this is why they were upset. She's currently 13 weeks pregnant, and 4 days ago, I got off work, so I immediately headed home to our apartment. I saw her best friend, Carly, 29 female, sitting on the couch looking very upset, which is unlike her, so I asked if everything was okay and where Vivian was. Carly told me that she was in our main bathroom, so I headed over to it and noticed that Carly was following me, which I think was a little strange, but brushed it off. I knocked on the door and asked if I could come in, which Vivian said yes to, so I opened the door and saw my fiance standing over the toilet with tears in her eyes when she looked at me. I immediately asked her what was wrong, and Vivian sniffled and told me that she miscarried, gesturing for me to look inside the toilet. I averted my eyes to it after I saw it and then started crying. I was genuinely sobbing, which I haven't done since Vivian revealed that she was pregnant, but those were tears of joy. I grabbed my fiance and hugged her tight while crying into her shoulder. Eventually, I looked up and saw in the bathroom mirror that Carly was standing in the doorway with her phone out like she was recording something or taking pictures. I let go of Vivian and asked Carly what the hell she was doing. Carly stammered and was going, while looking for an excuse. Eventually, my fiance fessed up and admitted that she didn't actually have a miscarriage and that it was a test to see how I would react if she actually lost our baby. What the I essentially short-circuited, unable to comprehend how the hell Vivian and Carly, despite us not being as close, could do something so outlandishly cruel to me. I snapped out of it when Vivian attempted to touch my cheek and pushed her hands away. I didn't want to be near her or have her touch me at that moment. Carly and Vivian tried to stop me from leaving the bathroom, but I pushed past them so I could go to our bedroom. I haphazardly packed some clothes into an old bag and headed straight for the door after grabbing my keys. Vivian caught up with me at the door and tried to plead with me to stay and talk about what happened, but I told her I needed time away from her to process what happened. She didn't push for me to stay after that, but seemed disappointed about it. I ended up staying with a buddy of mine, Josh, 26 male, who told me that I could stay as long as I wanted once I told him what happened and commented on how up that was for Vivian to do to me. I'll admit I was childish and dodged Vivian's texts and calls except to let her know I was safe over the next 2 days. Once I felt stable enough, I invited Vivian to talk. I won't go into everything we talked about, but the reason why Vivian decided to test me was that she was afraid that I didn't actually want the baby and was caring for them because I had to, not to be seen as a deadbeat. I said that I understood her fears, but I legitimately wanted to be a father to our baby. I ultimately decided to stay with Vivian, but on the condition that we postponed the wedding until after the baby was born and we did couples counseling. Vivian said okay and left my friend's apartment. I honestly assumed that was it and I was going to go home soon after that. Boy, was I wrong. An hour after Vivian left, I got messages from Carly harassing me about forcing Vivian to have a baby out of wedlock, since I know that's not what her parents want, while insulting me. It got so intense that I eventually blocked her. Honestly, I just want some unbiased outsider perspective on this. Am I the astronaut? What? I feel like you, OP, handled this the most level-headed, calm way possible, and postponing the wedding until after the baby so you guys can go through counseling was probably the smartest, most cool-headed thing you could ever do. Carly might be a problem here because there needs to be a conversation with Vivian to say who had this brilliant idea of faking a miscarriage and forcing me to look inside of a toilet and filming my reaction. Whose brilliant idea was this? Because who was standing in the doorway filming? And who was the first person you saw when you got into the apartment, sitting on the couch? I think friend Carly here is a manipulator. I think friend Carly here probably talked Vivian into this. Vivian had to go along with it anyway. Vivian had to say okay, and that's garbage. That's terrible for her to do that to you, period. It's not okay. But Carly seems like a problem child here for your relationship. Carly seems like a terrible influence. And talk to Vivian's parents and let them know what the hell their daughter just did to you. I think they'll understand you wanting to postpone the wedding and go through some counseling. I think they're going to understand that. And they're going to be very, very upset with Vivian, their daughter, and Carly, her batshit crazy friend, for pulling this shit in the first place. If they had a problem with having a child out of wedlock, how do you think they're going to feel about faking a baby's death just to see how somebody reacts and filming it? How do you think they're going to react to that? How do you think they're going to feel about it? Probably not great. You think they're going to be more mad about that than having a kid out of wedlock? Probably. So Carly, sit down. If someone ever did this to me, that's unforgivable. That is an unforgivable cruelty. This is the kind of thing you would never wish upon your worst enemy. Why your loved one would do that to you and push you through that to test you is beyond me. There is malicious intent behind this. This is not a real test. If Carly was behind making this thing happen, there is malicious intent behind it, and it is a seed of her trying to bust up this relationship. This is a seed of contempt. I think, there needs to be a conversation with Vivian about whose idea this was. Figure out how much of it was actually hers and how much of this was initiated by Carly. Figure out how bad of an influence Carly really is. I think you legitimately need to have a conversation with Vivian's parents here as well and explain everything that's going on to them. Yes, counseling is 100% needed. That's just to give you a chance. Right now, it is a just to have a chance kind of thing. Like, holy crap. And Vivian needs to understand that this Carly person is not her friend. She's destroying her life. She has to understand that and create some space. If I were put in that position, I'd be pissed. It's easy for me to stand here and be like, yes, I'd talk to Vivian's parents, talk to Vivian, figure out how involved Carly was. I'd be crushed and I'd be furious. So I don't know. I don't know what I would actually do in that moment. The smart thing I feel like to do would be to have the conversation with the parents and with Vivian to figure out what actually happened here and make sure the parents understand. And then, yes, take it slow. It's going to take time to heal from this. And this probably is still going to be an unforgivable but figuring out who is responsible, I think will go a long way. It's rough. So the question is, am I the astronaut for wanting to postpone the wedding with my fiance because she tested me with a fake miscarriage? Hell no. Hell no. That's a tame response. That is the minimum. The minimum change in course is postponing and getting counseling. That is a very conservative response here. Tony Spark, you trying to punch in?
Yeah, so he didn't post an update or anything, but he does have a couple of comments on here. So he said, I know she's pregnant. We did go to a doctor together after she brought home a test and confirmed that she was actually pregnant. So we do know that's true. He said he didn't ask Vivian, but he's pretty sure it was Carly's idea. He said Carly was the one who called it a prank when it first happened and not a test, which is why I guess she was recording it. In her text, she was switching between saying just a test and a stupid prank, which confused the F out of it. So I would say it might be safe to assume it was Carly's idea. That's all the comments he has.
Some people just want to watch the world burn. Yeah, there's some social content, Carly. Good gravy. What are you, a content creator on the dark web? What is the deal? That is terrible. That person, Vivian, has to understand that this person is not a positive to your life. The whole 0 is greater than -1 thing. Carly is a negative. She has a negative influence. She's going to have a negative impact on your life. She's going to drag you down for eternity. You have to separate yourself from her, Vivian. She's already trying to destroy your family. You haven't even had your baby yet. She's trying to destroy your family. Like, what the?
Happy birthday to you.
I can't sing to myself. That's just be weird.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dusty. Happy birthday to you.
Ready?